Well, look at you, my merry bunch of O-satters. How the devil are you? And boy, oh boy, have I missed you all. This podcast comes to you from somebody whose eyes can't look quite in the same direction, who is so kind of crazy, wiped out, exhausted, and all over the place, because the momentous news is in. I finished my book. Anybody at all who thinks that writing a book, particularly a knitting book, is easy is fooling themselves and ridiculous. I have never been through a process like it in all my life. It has been honestly one of the most inspiring, educating, brutal, difficult processes I have ever encountered. That's not to say I'm not incredibly proud of it. I really, really am. We finally got the title sorted out. There was lots of toing and froing, and we went with the title that I've wanted all along, and I am proud to announce. I'm not going to give too much detail about it yet because the big launch is coming up soon, but I'm very proud to announce that my book, Sockmatician, has written a book, and it's called Guys Knit. And I love that. I love that because it's true. It's just a statement of fact. Guys knit, because we do. And it is a beginner's knitting manual aimed specifically at men. Now, you know me, gender equality and all this kind of stuff going on. I don't like to be exclusive in any way, shape or form. So I wanted guys because there is a kind of gender neutrality to the word guys. Come on, you guys. You know, it can be very inclusive. But I know that's a tiny point. But it's not about exclusion. It's about including men into the world of knitting. I felt quite strongly that there's a sort of a lack of books that can represent every man. What does that mean? Gosh, that's an argument for another time. But I really wanted to make sure that if somebody was out there thinking, I want a book that represents me and who I am, and that's kind of the text I put on the back cover. So I'm really proud of it. I'm genuinely aware that some people might have a sort of an issue with this, and I open myself up to a little bit of criticism because it could be seen to be sort of skewing things the other way. But you know, guys are underrepresented in the knitting world, and I've always championed male knitters. We know that. I used to have a thing on this podcast called Stuff for the Boys. But anyway, it's done. It is. The last 2 weeks, particularly, have been a round of sleepless nights. When I say sleepless nights, I don't mean lying awake in bed with things churning through my head. I mean literally sitting at my computer, going through, checking manuscripts, checking drafts, checking layouts for inconsistencies and issues and errors and stuff, noting it all down, sending it back off, getting the next draft in, going through the night again. In 2 weeks, I probably worked through 5 nights. Not necessarily in a row, but there were 3 nights in a row where I didn't sleep at all. I was getting completely dazed and sleep deprived, and now I'm wired and crazy as a result, and it's been, I can't tell you. I've been talking to other designers who have done books recently. I was talking to Melanie Berg and to Carrie Weston as well, and they both recently finished their first books. Carrie's out on the shelves now, and Melanie just has got she's got delivery of hers and holding. Oh God, it's beautiful. They both do. Carrie's, I'm sure you're aware of, but if you haven't seen Melanie Berg's book SHAWLS, it's collection. I think it's 12 or 16 of her patterns, old and new, and there's such a beautiful. Melanie has a way of creating shawls that are just sophisticated and elegant and simple and beautiful and just gorgeous, and they drape off the body really well and they look absolutely stunning. So if you're not familiar with Melanie Berg's stuff, then you really should be, because if you like a shawl, you'll definitely like this stuff. They're simple to do, they're not too easy, they're not patronisingly easy, but there's enough interest there to keep a knitter happy, but there's also, they're not too taxing, they're just elegantly beautiful. And of course Carrie Weston become a very good friend of mine recently. More about that in a minute. Her book, This Thing of Paper, has been out since February, I think, this year, and seems to be going great guns. And I know that there's a lot of Carrie's own philosophy on life and knitting all wrapped up in that kind of thing. I haven't had a chance to read it yet, to my shame, but I think I'd enjoy it, and I know you all will as well. So I've been talking to them, and I'm not the only person who's been through this, being put through the mill process with writing a book. It really has been, for me, really, really tough. It's one of those things you sort of like, what new mums say about the pain of pregnancy. Once it's over, you're kind of programmed to forget it, otherwise you would never do it again. At the moment, I've got other books I want to write, I've got other things I want to do in the future. I never thought I'd write this book first either. Then that's a weird thing as well. I've written a book I didn't expect to write. To give you the idea of the genesis of it, I was approached by Haynes Publishing, who wanted to do a beginner's knitting manual for men, and they thought I was the right man for the job. So they've been looking around to see who was out there in the world of men's knitting in the UK, and they came across my stuff online, and here I am a year and a bit later, having just completed it. So something went right. We'll have to see whether or not people like what I've written. I mean, I like it. Of course I like it, otherwise I wouldn't have written it. Louise likes it, my editor. She wouldn't have been happy to print it otherwise. However, we'll just have to see if other people like it too. It's kind of strange. It's not the book I would have thought I would have written, because I actually don't teach people how to knit. That was the weirdest part of it. So for anybody who thinks, oh, Nathan's got a book out, I must go and buy it. If you're already a follower of this podcast, then the chances are you already know how to knit. And it is a beginner's guide, and it is a how-to, so it's step-by-step tutorials on how to tie a slip knot, a knit stitch, a purl stitch, a bit of cabling, increases and decreases. There's a whole lot of stuff in there, but it's all kind of basic stuff. There are 5 patterns in the back of the book. I'm really, really pleased with the patterns. I've deliberately gone for Aran weight yarn for all 5 of them. This is the fun bit. What you do is you buy, if you want to make the whole lot, you buy 4 colours of the same type of yarn, and for the 5 patterns I used Carthen Rack's Triskelion yarns, the Elmet Aran, which is just lovely, lovely, lovely to work with. Really, really lovely, bold, solid, saturated colours, really nice. And I used 4 colours for 4 of the patterns, and the 5th pattern is designed with using up the scraps of the other 4 in mind, so you get a free hat basically at the end of it, and that was kind of a fun thing to put together for that. They're kind of challenging. There's 3 hats, there's a scarf and a pair of socks, and they're all a little bit challenging for a brand new beginner. I absolutely think that someone who's worked their way through the book will be able to make those things. It's only using techniques that you find in the book, you don't need to go anywhere else. But one of the nice things about the book, I'm really excited about this, and Haynes are as well. It's a new departure for them. It's really interactive. There's about 25 tutorials, I think, in the book, and every single one on the page has a little QR code in the corner, and you scan the QR code with your smartphone, and it takes you straight to a page on the Haynes website with a specially shot video tutorial by me, especially for the book. So you've got the book, but you've also got access to tutorials that you wouldn't have links to otherwise. So that's really, really exciting. I've still got to film a couple of those. I know the book's gone to press, but some of the videos haven't been shot yet, so I'll be doing that over the next couple of months. And then, what else about it? It's so lovely. Just too much to say. There's some fantastic photographs in it. It's done with a lot of humour. I hope people will get the humour. I hope people will see that it's me and it's my personality on the pages. It's a bit nerve-wracking. I mean, it genuinely is, because you put this stuff out there and you just don't know what people will think, because of course you already know me. You know my sense of humour, you know I'm a bit irreverent and a bit subversive. But the book isn't aimed at you. The book is aimed at people who won't know who I am. So I'm hoping that they will see into the mind of me a little bit from what's on the page, and hopefully really, really enjoy a little bit of irreverent, silly humour. Some photographs that are a little comedic, and some rather random bits and pieces scattered throughout here. That sort of grew as the book developed. It started off being a very serious book, and then I thought, I need to be a bit more me. Well, I like to be not very serious. So so the book is not very serious. It's elegant and sophisticated, but it has its tongue in its cheek, and a twinkle in its eye. I think that's how I would describe it. Definitely a book for the coffee table, not for the tool shed, like a lot of Haynes manuals tend to be. So yeah, it's difficult for me to have been teaching somebody new how to knit, trying to pin down like 3-dimensional actions and movements onto 2-dimensional text, particularly when it's not something that I've ever taught before, because I deal with people who know how to knit. I deal with very competent knitters who are looking to do some more advanced and niche techniques. So when I say to people, put your needle in knitwise, you know exactly what I mean. I have to explain every tiny little aspect and pretend that whoever's reading the book has not learnt anything at all. So going back to what I said earlier, if you are looking forward to my book because you like my stuff, that's wonderful, but bear in mind there may not be much to teach you. There are 5 patterns in it which you might want to make, and they are good manly patterns. There are man size socks and things like that, and man size hats. Yes, hats for man-sized heads. And so if you've got people in your life that you want to knit for, and you're looking for some manly patterns for Christmas gifts and things like that, then this is perfect. Or, of course, if you are a knitter and the man in your life has been sort of making noises that he might like to try, but isn't really sure of what to look at and where to go, and certainly nobody should ever try and teach their partner how to knit. It's a recipe for disaster. Ask me how I know. I've tried to crochet with my husband. Bang, bang, bang. Things getting jettisoned across the room. Thankfully just the crochet. And it didn't last very long. And so if your menfolk are the kind of people who you might think will benefit, then this is possibly a good present for them as well. It really will allow them to think that knitting is for them, and that's basically what I wanted to do. So I can breathe a sigh of relief. I sort of feel I haven't, when the QE2 apparently switches off its engines, it takes like 2 miles for it to come to a halt. I feel very much that that's me at the moment. I'm still like paddling so fast just to try and keep up. That's my watch rattling. Paddling so fast to try and keep up with all my deadlines and everything that I now I don't know what to do. It was delivered on Tuesday. It's now Sunday, but I've had a busy few days as well, so everything's been busy. Nothing stops around here. So to catch you up then on this podcast is going to be all over the place. I know. I can tell already. To catch you up, I went to. The last you will have heard from me back along was when I went to Rhodes for John Glenn, who's Bearded Shield, for his knitting retreat over there. Had a wonderful time there, as you've seen from that video. I don't need to talk about that here. Since then I've been to Finland. Now Finland is somewhere I've never been to before, but I did used to sing a song about Finland on stage at the Palace Theatre in London's glittering West End every night in the Broadway transfer of the show Spamlot, of which I was in the original West End cast. So there's a gently prodding fun at Finland and fish and pine trees, and my experience of Finland was not about fish at all. It certainly was about pine trees. There's lots of those, and beautiful forests they are too. I went to a city called Jyväskylä, and Jyväskylä is right. If you look at the map of sort of Scandinavia, you've got the bit of sort of coming down. As you look at my map, here's my map. You've got Norway and coming down this way with Finland part of it, but underneath that there's a sort of bulbous shape there with a sort of the big bit of the horn of Scandinavia coming down over the top. In that bulb bit there, right in the centre, right in the middle, that's Jyväskylä, and it's not that easy to get to. I had to get a flight from London to Helsinki, and then, interestingly, I've started saying it like that because in the UK, I don't know what it's like in the States, but in the UK we say Helsinki, and we put the stress on sink. Everyone in Finland that I heard mention the name, they all say Helsinki. So I'm now saying Helsinki as well. So I got the plane from London to Helsinki, and then I had to get a connecting flight to Jyväskylä. And then I was met at the airport by the wonderful and delightful Tina. Tina's one of the organisers of the Jyväskylä Knit Festival. I'm sure it's got a different name than that, but of course all in Finnish. Now I've got this was the logo for the festival, and it's Very nice. I've got this lovely tote bag here. Now Tina, this is Tina with 2 I's, of course, because we're in the land of lots of vowels in Finland. Tina is one of the organisers of the festival, but she also runs such a wonderful yarn shop. It's called TTT. I'll put that here, TTT, and which is apparently the noise of birds. It's like tweet tweet, rendered in Finnish, TTT, and it is a beautiful shop. It's all wood. This building's wooden, and there's like planks of wood on the walls and stuff. And it's got lots of little sort of down a few steps and up a few steps, and there's a hallway there and a little cupboard there, and it's all packed full of yarn. All sorts of stuff. Lots of things I recognise, of brands from around UK and Europe and the US as well. So well-known indie designers, dyers. I'm sorry, and as well as proper Finnish tukku wool. Do you know what, I'll talk about it in a minute, but tukku wool is comes from the Finn sheep. Finn sheep is a local breed, and it's specific only to Finland. So it's some lovely stuff. I'll talk about it in a minute. So Tina met me from the airport, and it was about 1 in the morning when I arrived on the Friday morning. The festival was Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I was teaching Saturday and Sunday, and not going home till the Monday. So I had quite a lot of time there as well, which was lovely. And in the day on the Friday, once I'd woken up, got back to my hotel and woken up, I went to the marketplace, which is outside TTT. There's like a courtyard area with market stalls, like sort of semi-permanent wooden huts, the kind of huts that you might think you might get when the Christmas market comes to town, and you sell Christmas decorations and glühwein and stuff. Those sorts of things, and there's about 8 or 9 of those, and then there's another area which will all be marqueed, and down to the cafe, and outside the cafe, which is next to the yarn shop, there's fantastic. It's a sloped grass lawn, but it's been built. An area's been built up with like loads of wooden pallets. It's got bean bags and benches and coffee tables, and it's all covered over, and it's got patio heaters and stuff in it. Really, really lovely. There's an area with loads of bean bags. You can sit on like huge, great big bean bags. Amazing. And then, and so I went there and met up with some lovely people. Carmen from Walcott Yarns and a yarn story in Bath was there exhibiting and selling Walcott Yarns stuff. And Stephen and Penelope were there with their stuff, so I spent time with Stephen West as well. And I met some people that I've known, and I met Isabel Kramer. If you don't know Isabel Kramer, you should look her up. Here's her details for Ravelry and stuff here. She's fabulous. It's a German designer, and I really liked her. She's about my age, probably years older, but we're sort of contemporaries within 2 or 3 years of each other. And she's full of life. She's one of those people that everything is animated, and she's just powerful and energetic, and really a force of nature. I really enjoyed making friends with her. Then there's Johanna. Now Johanna is she's a tech editor, grader, statistician, and designer. She's Finnish. She lives locally and to Jyväskylä, and she had designed a shawl called Haiku. I thought I was going to forget. Called Haiku Shawl. And it was the design for the festival, so she put it together especially for the festival. And that's this wonderful picture that was taken. I'll show you now. When one evening we were all there, and everybody who was wearing a haiku shawl surrounded Johanna and was showing off their shawls, and there's loads, and it's really lovely to see the pride in her face when you see that many people have knitted and enjoy wearing your design. It's nothing to beat it. I'd love to be surrounded by that many of my own designs. So I've been in a position where there've been like 2 or 3 at a time, but nothing like that. Now Johanna and I actually met in Helsinki on my flight over to Jyväskylä. This was very funny. Funny for me, not for her at all. She'd had a horrible journey. She'd been in Edinburgh, some university work that she does, some sort of exchange thing, I think. And she had a really miserable time. She already knew that her bags weren't going to make it onto the plane that she was on. She'd missed various things were cancelled, delayed, rescheduled, horrible time. She'd been in transit for about 14 hours just to get from Edinburgh to Helsinki, and we still had to get to Jyväskylä. It was only about a 40-minute flight, but you still have to do it. And she said she's a good friend with Tina, and she happened to be texting Tina and saying, woe is me. She was on the verge of tears, apparently. She was so tired and so miserable. And Tina said, that's the flight that Nathan's on. See if you can find him. And apparently she just sort of looked up and looked around, saw a bearded guy knitting, and then came over and said, are you Nathan? I said, yes. And that's how we met. She sat down. We had about 40 minutes to wait for the flight to start, and we got to know each other really, really well. She's adorable. So Johanna, if you are watching this, it's just, I need to get back in touch with you because we haven't been in contact since I came home, but I think you're amazing, and I really want to maintain that friendship if I may. We're both proper knit nerds. Real knit nerds. So we were sitting talking about the benefits of this kind of decrease and that kind of decrease, and symmetry and stitch mount, and just really having a lovely time geeking out over knitty stuff. Loved it. So anyway, cut to the Friday. In the afternoon I went to the marketplace, and then I was taking part in a knitting procession through the town. Like, what? Apparently the knitting festival is part of a wider citywide festival, which is art and crafts and music and dance and all sorts of things, performance. And in the middle of the centre there's like a pedestrian area, and where the two big pedestrian swathes cross each other, there's a big crossroads. And on the corners of these there's a raised area that people can sit on, like have their lunch and stuff. But one of them had been taken over as a stage, and it sounds, I think, like a radio roadshow type of thing. So there were presenters there on microphones, and various guests were getting up and doing stuff to entertain the crowd. Well, part of the festival is a thing called What Are They Doing? And they were interested to know what the knitters were doing. So the knitters, there were about 30 of us. I was the only man. About 30 of us were processing through the streets of Jyväskylä, knitting as we went, chatting away. And we arrived, and we went up onto the stage, and we were duly interviewed. Yeah, I was interviewed. It was very strange. So the lady... Yes, now how did this work? The female presenter, there were two, a guy and a girl, and the lady, girl, male and female, she wasn't a girl at all, she was probably 40. She would interview me, she'd ask me a question in English, and of course I would respond in English, and it was up to the chap to translate what I had said into Finnish. Now I didn't know that this was going to be the game, so I assumed, because everyone I'd spoken to so far had really high level of English, that would be expected. So I would just be talking in English and people would understand me, but I think just in case, or because they are in Finland and they don't want to belittle their own language's importance, it was being done in Finnish too. So, the first answer I gave, me being verbose old Nathan, I went on, rattled on for ages, and I could see this guy, and as he started speaking, he was like trying to remember what I'd said, and then translate it, and then give it out. I was like, okay, succinct answers next time. So after that, I gave much shorter, pithier, hopefully comedic answers, and it batted backwards and forwards quite well. So that was that. And then that evening, on the Friday, was the cruise, the knitting cruise. Jyväskylä is on the shore of a big lake, massive great lake, and there were about 250 knitters on this large sort of lake cruiser, open top. Downstairs was a lovely restaurant, so we had dinner on the boat and a cruise around the lake. It was for 2.5 hours, I think. It was gorgeous, really lovely, and that's where I met Melanie Berg. We were sitting opposite each other. I had Nancy Marchant here, Queen of Brioche. I had Stephen sitting just over there. I had Melanie in front of me. Isabel was over the... I was like, oh, I'm in really good company. Melanie and I, we had a bit of a... If she was a boy, you'd say it was a bromance. It's kind of weird because it's not a romance because I'm a gay man and she's a straight married woman and I'm a married man, so whatever. But I just fell in love with her. Absolutely fell in love with the person behind the knitting, as well as loving the knitting that she does. And obviously I wanted to hear all about her book because she'd just got all the sort of the drafts back and finished everything, and then sort of she was very excited about that. I don't think it's out yet. It's either just about to come out. She's Instagramming quite a lot of stuff from it at the moment. So she's Mairlynd, Mairlynd. So Mairlynd is her Instagram name. So check her out on there and see if it's out yet. By the time you watch this, it might be, if it's not at the time of recording. But yeah, she was really excited about that, and it was really interesting for me to hear that perspective as well, because of what I was going through. Well, I actually, what I was about to go through, I didn't realise quite how bad I was going to get. I say bad, that sounds like I'm sort of criticising the process. It's just stressful, right? Writing books is just stressful. There's a lot of different elements that need to come together, so I'm not in any way having a dig or a go. It's the last thing on the mind. I'm so grateful to everyone at Haynes for giving me the opportunity. I just found it hard. It's on me. So yeah, we sat there and we chatted and got to know each other. And again, Melanie's a bit of a knit nerd, like me and Johanna, so we were geeking out about knitty stuff as well and having a thoroughly lovely time. And then on the Saturday I taught a class. I taught my demystifying double knitting for new beginner double knitters. And then on the Sunday I then taught my shaping class, which is the sort of future of double knitting. I need to rename that class. I want to call it sort of like double knitting the next steps or something like that. It's going beyond rectangles or something like that, because it's not really about the future of it's the future of it's your future within double knitting pretty much. It's once you've done lots of squares and rectangles and maybe done something in the round, you want to do something where you can do some shaping stuff or maybe add some different textures. So it's other skills to be had within the field of double knitting, and it's becoming one of my favourite classes to teach, I have to say. I really enjoy it because it's usually full of gung-ho, intrepid knitters who really want to sort of challenge themselves. It's very conceptual. It's not, you don't make anything nice at the end of it or anything like that. You just sit down, you practice lots of stitches, lots of increases, decreases. If you get onto it, German short rows in double knitting. I mean, wow. They really are sort of the top of the tree when it comes to shaping techniques. And it's lovely to be among people who are really sort of keen to get into the nitty gritty of stuff and really sort of get to the bowels of what makes double knitting, particularly what it is and how it works and why it works, and basing that on all the basic fundamentals of what knitting is. Couldn't be happier teaching that class, and boy oh boy did Finland not let me down. The knitting standard in Finland is amazing. I was impressed when I went over to the Netherlands. I think possibly what I encountered in Finland, certainly the people that I encountered there, probably a notch above what I'd seen before, and really, really spectacular. They all learn to knit in school. Boys and girls, they learn to knit socks and hats in school. It's amazing. And for many people that stays with them. Interestingly, because they get taught, it's like on a curriculum level, what it means is that everyone has kind of the same knitting style. They all get taught the same way. So they're all continental knitters, so all over the left finger, and with two colours, both wrapped over, and they pick up the one they want. Most of them, the majority of the people I was teaching, were using the Norwegian purl, which is a neighbouring country, a Scandinavian thing. So you've got the Norwegian purl is rather than with the continental purl where you bring the finger forward to purl like that, everything stays behind the needle, the yarn stays behind the needle, and you go in behind it and you go around the back and scoop it up and then take it through the stitch. It's really useful if you struggle with the continental purl with tension and stuff like that. It's very, very useful. In fact, my very first double knitted project was my perplexer scarf, and I knitted the whole thing right up until the last few rows with the Norwegian purl because I couldn't get the hold of this finger flappy thing. Very useful, and sometimes I advise it and recommend it to pupils who want to be able to do two-handed knitting and can't because of that reason. But it changes things, so I was having to relearn how I taught stuff and how I explained things, because the Norwegian purl, rather than to bring both yarns to the front, which is what I normally say to make a purl stitch, you don't. You actually don't need to bring either of them to the front. If you're doing a Norwegian purl, you can go around the back. It changes everything. So I was learning as well, which was really, really exciting for me. I said this yesterday in another class I was up in Leeds. I genuinely think if I don't come away from a class that I'm teaching having learned something myself, then I don't think it's a particularly successful class. I love it when I get to learn more stuff. And I did yesterday. Anyway, moving on. So yeah, it's really, really fantastic. So I had the two classes there, and then it was kind of like a spiritually lovely visit. And then on the last day I went into TTT and got myself some yarn. which I fully intended to pay for, and Tina wouldn't have it. She would not take my money. Thank you, Tina. I nearly cried. I felt very close to Tina and to Evelina, who had organised it. By the end of that, was there 4 nights? 3.5, 4 nights, and it was just lovely, really, really lovely. So that was Finland, and then after Finland came Yarningham, which you will have already seen my roundup for my last little Not a Podcast episode. So I'm not going to talk too much about that, but just want to say I had a really, really nice time again. And Kerry and I, as you'll have seen in the video, if you have seen it, Kerry Westham and I spent the night in the city sharing a B&B. It's been organised by Helen Winnicott, who is the organiser of Yarningham, and they'd organised it for us. She knew we knew each other, although we did, but we didn't know each other. We'd met a few times, and it was very polite and civil, and we knew we liked each other, but we hadn't got a chance to know each other. We really do now. Kerry and I are like firm friends. This is what I love about the knitting community. There are people in it who share your likes and dislikes very often, because we all like knitting. We all come at it from different ways, but you'll find people who come at it the same direction you do, and that when you do, so Johanna, Melanie, Kerry, we're all like geeking out over stuff and coming at knitting from a very sort of like a designer's perspective, an internal perspective, which I know is very different from perhaps someone who has never designed something and just doesn't want to worry about doing any of that, just wants to pick the pattern off the shelf and do as they're told and get the right results. I have no problem with that at all. I think that's perfectly valid. I almost wish I was like that myself. Can't help myself. I'll try this. So yeah, Kerry and I had a wonderful time. We stayed up quite late chatting. We ordered takeaway food and put the world to rights and learnt a lot about each other and got to know each other on a really, really lovely sort of brotherly, sisterly level. It's really nice. Thanks, Kerry, if you're watching this. I had a really lovely time. Yarningham itself was great. I had 2 classes again. They were both of the demystifying double knitting classes, and it was lovely to see Michelle Hazel. Michelle, for anyone who doesn't know that name, is Sticks and String on Instagram and Ravelry, and she's my tech editor and has been since my very, very first pattern. And I insisted, well, strongly advised that she be brought on board to help with the tech editing for my book. Because bear in mind, of course, Haynes are a publishers that do car manuals and aeroplanes and tanks and all that kind of stuff, not craft at all. So there's nobody there who could even knit, let alone be able to check to see if anything I had submitted had any errors in it, because with the best will in the world, errors do slip through. So I brought Michelle on board, ostensibly just to tech edit the patterns, but she was also going to proofread the whole of the manuscript for everything I'd said, because it's so easy to say things like going from left to right when you mean right to left, and you know in your head what you mean, but you just said the wrong thing. And if that goes into my book and it's factually incorrect, I'm furious. So Michelle was invaluable, particularly those last stages when everything was really tight. There was a couple of things suddenly I was like, it's been a few months since I've written that section. I've been thinking about that particular aspect of knitting in a different way since then, and I'm going to start teaching a class particularly on that very subject, and I can't have my book come out, which kind of not contradicts, but is the old way that I used to think about things and not what I'm now sort of perpetuating and then teaching to take forward. So I had to do some rewrites, and of course Michelle's like, Michelle, I don't know if you've got time, but it's the middle of the night, can you proofread this and get it back to me within half an hour? Michelle was there at Yarningham and we had lunch together. I was with her for about half an hour, and it was lovely to see her. I don't get a chance to see her very often, in person certainly. She lives up in the north of England, I'm down south. But we've become very firm friends, and to be honest, I don't know if she watches this podcast. Michelle, if you are watching this, I genuinely couldn't have got through the last 2 weeks without you. That's not an overstatement at all. It is an absolute plain truth. I couldn't have done it without you. Thank you so much. Very, very earnest there, no joking aside, all joking aside. I can't even speak today. My brain is literally dribbling out my ears. So, at Yarningham, which you will have seen in the video. If you haven't, go and watch it. But I was very, very lucky to not just teach 2 classes, but to sit and take a class as well. It's a class I've wanted to take for a little while. Couldn't believe it when the timings all coincided, and I asked Helen if I could sit in. I was going to pay. I promise I was. She wouldn't let me. People are nice to me. It's nice. I've got no money at the moment. All work on the book has meant I've got no time for designing patterns, and I haven't done much teaching. I'm literally broke. So if this book doesn't sell, I'm sunk. So it's nice when I can get a few things and people say, no, don't worry, it's fine. And I sat in on Anna Maltz's Marl Isle class. Sorry, I keep playing with my nose because my ears are popping in a strange way. I think it's raining outside, atmospheric pressure. I sat in on the Marl Isle class, and look at me wafting this thing around here like you can see what it is. I know you can't. And for those of you who may not know what Marl Isle is, have a look at it online. Anna Maltz, who is Sweater Spotter on Instagram. I'll find out what you are on Ravelry, I actually don't know, and put it there. She's brilliant. She's absolutely brilliant. She's come up with this technique. I don't think anyone's done it before. If they have, it hasn't had a name put to it. And it's, you know, when if you hold 2 yarns together, 2 different colours, and you knit with them together, the 2 colours blend and marl, and that's the whole concept between fading, find your fade, and all that kind of stuff. It's marling. It takes that concept and it goes a little bit further. If you're marling, doing like a lovely garter stitch texture in the round, you get to a certain point, you can stop marling and you can just do some like little patch of fair isle. Marl isle. So it's a blend of marling and fair isle together. You can do that. And it's remarkably simple. The concept is so simple, but the applications for it are really far-reaching. And I think it's absolutely brilliant. When you get someone like Anna, whose brain comes up with something brand new, and not just sits with it and oh look what I did, she's developed it, and there's a whole technique around it. She's wonderful, truly wonderful, and in the flesh just an absolute delight. I thoroughly enjoyed being taught by her. I flew with the technique, I loved it, and I was thinking to myself as it was working along, I was thinking, it doesn't need to be patches of fair isle, does it? I can see that this would work very well with patches of double knitting. And as I was thinking those thoughts, Anna said that a friend of hers had made a baby blanket, wanted to use the Marl Isle technique, but didn't want to let the floats and stuff on the back for sticky fingers to get caught in. So had done it with double knitting. So there we are. So I thought of it. It already exists. That proves that I can go off and do some stuff with it. So this is what I made in the class. This is what it looks like. So 3-hour class, not bad really. This was knitted in the round. It was knitted like that, and this section here was a 13, these long ties, I haven't trimmed them off yet, they made up a 13 stitch steek. So a steek is of course an area of knitting which is disposable that you're going to cut and then undo. And this is a knotted steek. Can you see the fringes are it's all knotted there, so down here knotted. I've got this line of stitches there, so it wasn't going to go any further, and then you can unravel to that point and then tie the knots. You can probably see them better on the back. Yeah, there you go. So you can see here, it's lovely. I love these colours. This is Knit by Numbers by John Arbon, gorgeous. So you've got, in the garter stitch section, you've got the green and the blue, which are all marling together beautifully. They're like a third colour. So then I started off at the bottom with these 2 round dots. So here, literally, if you see the back, it's just the green is just being stranded across the back, as in fair isle. And there on the front, it's just the blue stocking stitch showing through. But then you've got the green as well, and while that's going on, the blue is just being stranded across the back. So that was that, and then I wanted to sort of play around a bit more. So I thought, well, I'll do 2 squares with squares inside them, but one of them I will do as fair isle, as per the technique, stranded across the back, as there. And the other one, this one here, I will double knit. It works so easily and so beautifully. So that on one side becomes the opposite colours on the other side. No unsightly wrong side. It's brain overdrive, scarf, planned, charted, yarn ordered, casting on tomorrow if the yarn arrives. I'm really, really excited about this. I was very excited in the class. I was like always giddy with the prospects, because you've got 2 yarns going on, that's it. But you've essentially got 3 colours. You see, you've got the mild colour and you've got colour A and colour B. So it's Benny Anderson, Benny from ABBA, always used to talk about the girls' voices in ABBA. I say girls advisedly that time, because they always used to talk about them as the girls, and the boys are the boys. It wasn't the men and the women in ABBA, it's always the boys and the girls. Moving on. So Benny always used to talk about, there was Agnieszka's voice and there was Frida's voice, but there was also the third voice, and he called the third voice the sound that those 2 women made when they were singing together, either in unison or in harmony, and their voices blended so beautifully. Well, that's the third voice, right? That's ABBA's third voice right there. It's the perfect mix of the things that make the other 2 things special brought together. So I had so much fun, and I've never cut a steek before. I could trim all that off and make it, but I really like it as it is. I'll probably trim off the long one. That's like the cast on, the bind off edge there. So probably trim that off. But the others, I think it looks nice as a little fringy thing. It's nothing. It's not going to be anything. I just quite like it, and it's a source of great inspiration for me. So I'm putting that aside. So that was that. Marlisle, fabulous. Anna Maltz, amazing. I'm maltzing. She's fantabulous. And then yesterday I was up in Leeds, and in Leeds I was teaching. I can't remember the name of the actual guild. Is it Knitting and Crochet Guild or something? They'd asked me ages ago to go up and teach, and we finally got around to it. Lovely. Haven't been to Leeds for ages. Went up on Friday, came back Saturday. Today is Sunday. It is the 29th of July, and that's 7 months of the year gone. Talking about the book, I tell you. So this is the reason why some people are a bit worried that I haven't been very active on social media, and I haven't been around, certainly on Ravelry, for ages, and haven't done a podcast since June. May, actually, 2 months and more. It's because I just haven't had the time, and everything has been about getting everything ready and sorted for the book, and the book, and the book, and the book, and book, and book. It's like literally every thought in my head has been about the book. So, book. It's stop. I've become a book bore. I'm trying to breathe. I'm trying to allow myself to shake it all off, but it's really, really tough. So I just want to. I don't want to go into the normal podcast stuff, if that's okay. That's kind of the roundup. But what I do want to talk about is something that's happened as an accidental. So this podcast is called Delivery and Diversknitty. So delivery is because I deliver the book. And Diversknitty is something completely different. While I was in Finland, I was at Helsinki airport waiting to fly home, actually. I had about 2 hours of connecting flight there. And something happened. I was looking through Instagram, and you know sometimes when you sort of you go from picture to picture and you look at each one and you comment or you like or you move past. But sometimes if you're in a bit of a hurry, you kind of like flick idly and things are whizzing up the screen until something catches your eye and you'll stop it and have a look. Well, that's what I was doing. Zoom, 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 zoom. And then something caught my eye, and it was a face, the lady's face, in close up. And actually, it was a beautiful face. That's what caught my eye, partly. It was a smiling face, really, really, you know, the kind of face that just lives joy and gives joy to everybody else. It was that. She was beautiful. She was also black, and I noticed it. And I noticed myself noticing it, and I sort of stepped back from myself and went, oh, wait. You shouldn't be thinking that seeing a black face on your feed is something out of the ordinary. There's something very, very wrong there, and that needs addressing. And because, of course, the people on my feed are the people I follow. So that's not the same as who follows me. Anyone who wants to can follow me on Instagram. I have chosen, for whatever reason, to follow someone or not, and the people that I see on my feed are those people. And 99% more are white. Now, is that a reflection on a lack of diversity within the knitting community as a whole? Partly, possibly. It's much more a reflection on me, and I was horrified. So I put out a post. I came up with the word Diversknitty, and I made a little hashtag, and I checked. No one had ever used that hashtag before. I'm the first person to do it. So Diversknitty has become two things, all linked with diversity, of course, but it's become two prongs of the same movement, really. The first one was I put out this post saying, actually I put it on my story first of all, and I got confused, it didn't go to my feed until later. I said, if you are a knitter of colour, I'm not seeing enough non-white faces in my feed. But if you're a knitter of colour who follows me, and I don't follow you back, wave at me and say hi. Introduce yourself, and I will follow you back, and I will therefore be able to get to know you as a person through your posts. And people are doing it by the ton. And it's becoming one of my favourite things on the internet right now. Hashtag Diversknitty. So type this in, follow the tag if you like on Instagram, and just see who's out there. Somebody got in touch with me, and he was very right to do this. He said, please don't follow me because I'm ethnic. I was like, yes, you're absolutely right, and I don't want it to appear that. And I said to him, I was very careful, this is not in any way, shape or form an exercise in tokenism. It's not about that. It's not about just ticking that box. For me, it was a case of, we're all aware in these difficult times politically in the world that we can be a victim of our own bubble. We can live in our own echo chamber, and we follow people who are like us. And I wanted to follow people who have different backgrounds and come from different places in the world, and different upbringings from this place in the world, because I don't know, a black family from East London is going to have a very different upbringing culturally perhaps, and influences coming to them than I did as a white upbringing in a small town in Oxfordshire. So, and we're all English. So I want to be able to grow. That's genuinely what Diversknitty is all about. It started because I wanted to be able to grow as a person. I wanted to feel that I had access to a wider range of influences which would benefit me. And in the meantime, it would sort of redress what I felt to be wrong. So I thought, well, what if subliminally and subconsciously there has been some underlying unaware element of racism in me that has stopped me from noticing or seeking out non-white knitters to follow? And I was like, in order for me to know that's not true, I need to go the other way. So that was what it was for me. Now, it's become something very, very different. It's become a tool for anybody out there in the knitting community who feels underrepresented. And I had no idea, genuinely, I had no idea quite how many people were being affected by this. I was contacted by a lady, English knitter of colour, called Lorna Hamilton Brown, she was giving a talk in Winchester in the Loop forum, and it was about diversity in the knitting community, and she wanted to talk about me and the fact that I've started this thing. And so we got chatting, and she's fabulous. I love her completely. And through following her and seeing what's happening on the Diversknitty hashtag out there, what I'm seeing is people who have felt marginalised, isolated, misrepresented or underrepresented, and sometimes intimidated in the social media of the knitting world, are finding each other. And I know there's one lady posted on someone else's comment. She said, sometimes I feel I'm the only brown knitter out there. And somebody else, through the Diversknitty hashtag, who's from the same part of the world says, now there's two of us. And I'm sure there are many, many more, but that's just an example from their experiences. And I've managed to, I've had two self-titled headscarf wearing Muslim ladies who have both come to me saying, I sometimes feel I'm the only one. And I've now been able to introduce them to each other. And it's delighting people. It's making people feel counted, making people feel worth something. Even if it's just, if somebody who has felt marginalised or underrepresented, I keep using the wrong word, underrepresented, suddenly feels, as a result of me just musing on my own feed, if they suddenly feel that someone out there is saying, I see you, you matter. I've wept quite a lot over the last few days as well, as a result of all of this. Just check it out, go and see. So the other prong of Diversknitty is because diversity itself is not just about colour of skin, of course it's not. It's about what makes us different. And what makes us all different is everything that makes us us, right? So I put out another call under the same hashtag, it's all about Diversknitty, to say, let's celebrate what makes us different. Let's celebrate what makes us who we are. And I started the ball rolling, and actually, looking for my phone, recording on it. So I listed a whole load of things about me, things that I felt were just true of me. I said, I'm gay, I have green eyes, I'm obsessed with double knitting, I sing all the time, I sometimes annoy people, I don't care, I have HIV, I'm an advocate for HIV awareness and stigma reduction, and loads and loads of things. I've got married on the television, I love my husband Ben, all these things that kind of make up me. And I said, let's do this. So if you want to get involved, please do. This is one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen people get involved with online. And it's going from strength to strength. It's becoming a bit of a movement. People are, take a knitting selfie, or show us who you are, or a caricature, anything that represents you. Tag it, hashtag Diversknitty, and then just list some stuff. Basically, I've said, list anything you dare to share, anything you want people to know about you. And some people are putting in some stuff which is really personal. People are talking about anxiety levels, and talking about depression and mental health problems. People are talking about things about themselves that they're not particularly proud of, and really laying themselves bare. And gosh, it's just so beautiful to see the person behind the post. And you realise that every single person on this planet, I'll say it out loud, and I'll put it on the screen so you can see it. Through the humanity of Diversknitty, we find unity. It's genuinely really, really moving to see some of the things that people are doing, see how people are finding each other and saying, yes, I'm that too. But I'm not that, and that makes you wonderful and makes me wonderful. One of my favourite is Knit Three Together, TTS. This group of identical triplets. I'm going to get these names wrong. Tony, Terry and Stephanie, I think. Tony, Terry and Stephanie. And their post has thrilled me probably more than any of the others, because what they've done is they've said, we have the same upbringing, we're exactly the same age, we have the same genetic material. We're so similar in so many ways, but we are all individual, and here's why. And they list that Tony likes this, but Stephanie hates it. Terry doesn't like this, but Tony does this, and goes through, and they have a joint Instagram account already, so they're already very intrinsically bound in the social media world of the knitting community, but they're also asserting their own individuality. And I wanted to do it because we all feel there are things that define us. We all feel there are things that unite us. And I guarantee that at the end of this, no matter how many hundreds, already a couple hundred, nearly a couple hundred, out of all of these people doing it, no two lists of things will be the same. Guarantee it. And celebrating that is really, really special. I've got a lot of people applauding me for starting this off, and I sort of want to bat that side really, because I didn't think about it a great deal. It was just, oh, this would be fun. And I want, so the two things, my ethnicity awareness drive for myself and my feed, and my desire to sort of find out about everybody as a whole, they were just sort of things that occurred to me in the boredom of a layover in Helsinki. So I didn't put a great deal of benevolent anthropologist kind of thought into it. I just thought it would be fun to send that out and see what comes back. Well, what's coming back is beautiful. Please join in Diversknitty, find people like you, and it's made me think as well. Lorna Hamilton Brown, her thing is she wants to get, there's like millions of posts out there for knitters of Instagram, hardly any for black knitters of Instagram. There's loads and loads and loads for men who knit, not many for black men who knit. And I started my own. I mean, I know I started Diversknitty, but that's taken on a life of its own. I started my own, for me, Knitters with HIV, and no one. Now I know that's kind of difficult because sometimes people feel that they can't be open about their HIV status, and possibly when they can't control who sees stuff that's on social media, so be a bit more careful perhaps. But I'm fighting for a world where that's not the case, and it'll only happen through normalising and usualising and being open and upfront about stuff. So I'm tagging some of my posts with knitters with HIV, and someone else has done it too. I didn't ask him, he's a friend of mine, he is known to me, and I actually asked him to post, but I didn't ask him to post or what to hashtag. He's taken that on board himself, because I think I just want people to be out and proud, and to realise, and to make other people realise that there's nothing shameful, nothing to be frightened of. Maybe that's a bit naive of me at the moment, but the more those who can do, the more will get done, and the less will need to get done in the future. Does that make sense? It's been, as you can probably tell, I'm sort of stuck for words. It's been kind of spiritually, transcendentally amazing to watch Diversknitty become a thing of its own, and I couldn't genuinely be more pleased to have different faces to look at, different worlds to visit when I look at my Instagram feed, and different people to get to know on a personal level. That's what it's all about. So let's talk about some stash enhancement, because this goes back some. So going back before my last podcast, in fact, the wonderful Jane at Craft Days in Saffron Walden, which is a shop I teach at quite regularly. I'm going back again later in this year. Maybe my 4th or 5th visit, I think. And I do sort of 2 classes at a time. Yeah, I have a lovely time when I go there. It's a lovely, lovely shop. And Jane, who runs it, is divine. And she's got this new range of yarn. Now, Saffron Walden, if you don't know, is so called because of saffron being the spice. If you don't know where saffron comes from the stamens of the crocus, purple spring flowers. Saffron Walden's famous for them. So with a local dyer, whose name I can't remember, I'm hoping it's going to be on here, Jane's come up with the colours of Saffron Walden. She's got little, I think it's 4 colourways, which are all designed for the tourist market, essentially, for people to come, because it's a very historic town, Saffron Walden, very beautiful, and for people who want to take something away of the town, we've got the colours of Saffron Walden. This one is called, Crocus, and oh my goodness, it could not represent the crocus more betterer than that. It's amazing. So this is yarn origin. It's mulesing free merino from Argentina and Uruguay. Mulesing. I need to do some research because I don't know what that is. Hopefully next time I see you I'll be able to tell you. I don't know what that means. And mulberry silk from Italy. So it's really, really soft and lovely. What's the percentage? 80% superwash merino and 20% silk. It's 100 grams, it's 365 meters, so it's a bouncy, lofty, sort of thicker one. It's not got quite the length of some sock yarns, but it's thicker and cozier. It's so beautiful. That silk content is absolutely gorgeous. But look at the depth and the range of colours. Obviously there's the saffron, and there's the petals of the crocuses. Crocuses come in such a wide variety of shades of purple. All of these are so. And this was a little gift for me last time I was there, and I said to Jane, I said, is it available online? She said, no, it's not. I said, I want to thank you, and I want to thank you by sort of talking about it on the podcast, and just in case anybody wants to then buy it, it's sort of pointless if they can't. So I urged her and bullied her, and she did. She put it online, so I'm assuming it's still available. This was some weeks ago. So it's been dyed by mintbee.uk. So it's www.mintbee, mintbee, as in zzz, mintbee.uk, not .co.uk, just .uk. And the shop website is www.craft-days.co.uk. All information there. So if you are looking for a little bit of saffron Walden to take home, or to send to the States, or do something like that fabulous, then you can take your own crocus skein. Now I have no idea what it wants to be. I think this won't be socks. It's too nice and soft to put on your feet. So I think maybe some sort of hat, or maybe a cowl, maybe a little shawlette or something. Absolutely beautiful. Jane, thank you so much. So that's that. And then Ben went to, I haven't got it here, I have to go and get it. Ben went to, no I haven't, I know where to get it. Ben went to Jerusalem, Jerusalem. He went to Israel when I was in Finland, and he was recording an Israeli string orchestra for a film he's making for UK Jewish film at the moment. And while he was there, he bought this, excuse me while I leave to go and get it. I'm back. He bought me this. There's a yarn shop there. I don't know anything about the fibre, genuinely nothing at all, but look at that. It's really, really soft. It's a single, sort of deskein it a bit, have a look at it in more detail. It's a single, it's really, really thick, it's really soft. Could have some silk content in there potentially. It'll pill like a bugger, and it's lovely. I'm going to make a hat. I know I'm going to do it. I'm going to make a big, big old hat, and it's going to be a crazy hat. It's not going to have any ribbing. It's going to curl at the end, maybe an I-cord to start with, something big. It's just going to like, and I'm not even going to do any crown decreases like shaping. I'm just going to let it go to a big old point, like a big pixie hat. I know it wants to be that. It just absolutely wants to be that, and there's plenty there for it. So. Gorgeous. Imagine it's going to look really, really nice. Like that. Yeah, see? Do you think? Hi. So that's from my husband, and that's lovely. Again, I could talk about it, but I don't know anything about it except it came from Jerusalem, which is where he was staying. And I love it. I think it's going to be really, really cosy, really, really nice. So that's that, and that's the plan for that. Thank you, Ben. Sort of a birthday present, really. Love it. Really, really soft. It's going to be very, very warm. And then of course in Finland at the same time I got Tina's gift of the tuku wool. Tuku is Tuku, and these are the colours. Aren't they beautiful? Sensing a theme? I know it's green and blue for me. Blue and green should never see unless there's something in between. People used to say it to me all the time as a child. I think I'm rebelling against that very specifically because I think blue and green are gorgeous together. But look at these two colours, aren't they just lovely? The Finnish wool is it's a grey, it's a sort of light mid-grey, so you get this. I love colours that are dyed over grey. You get this wonderful richness, this sort of a muted richness, if that makes any sense, that sort of brings the colours together. Now all of the colours in the range, there's hundreds in the tuku wool range, all go very nicely together, and it's just beautiful. So we've got this wonderful green, and that colour representation is not bad actually. This wonderful sort of olivey duck poo green. So much nicer than that, and this lovely sort of petrol blue, just gorgeous. So what have we got here? These are 50 grams each. There's enough for a hat here, like sort of feral hat or something. 100 grams, 100% Finnish wool, which is the thin sheep. That's what it says. It's characterful. It's got the same sort of feel to it and handle as a Shetland would, so it's not the softest wool in the world, but it's nice. That won't cause me any problems at all. It's got a bit of crispy feel to it, but I think everyone tells me that also it softens really, really well with washing and wearing. So, but by no means is it the scratchiest wool I've ever dealt with. I'm not going to put it anywhere near my husband because it'd be thrown across the room, but we know that he's a little bit more sensitive than most people. So that's lovely. And Tina, thank you so much. The colours of that, they make me want to just like live in this wall forever. Lovely. And then, yes, there is one more yarny thing that I can show you, and then some bags. I made some bags for my birthday by two different people. This yarn, everybody knows, right, that I have a bit of an affiliation, not an official way, but I'm just very keen to support my friend Lorena and her Piggy Yarns little home business. Now, Lorena and I had a conversation ages ago, about a year ago, I think, about ice cream flavours, and my favourite colour was like chocolate salted caramel. It's really nice. The husband does one. So she's developed this colourway called chocolate salted caramel, based on that for me. And it's a 3-ply fingering. It's her Luxe sock, Luxe Luxe sock base, 80% superwash blue face Leicester, 10% cashmere and 10% nylon. What a base that is, right? It's just gorgeous, and look at it. So it's got these dark, it's getting darker in here actually, the light's fading, and with these deep rich chocolatey tones, and then the caramelly sort of golds, and then sort of like the extra it's just beautiful. Let me take it out of its wrapper so you can see the whole effect. Isn't that just lovely? It looks like it glows from within. Really, really beautiful. Marina, thank you so much. I love it. I cannot wait to make it into something fabulous. Gorgeous. Now, Lorena also made for me 2 bags for my birthday that came in a little parcel just like it, and they are fabulous. I'll show the big one first. My birthday is obviously some of you will know this from Instagram or Facebook, but the 26th of June, which is since I last spoke to you, 26th of June is what I have started calling, I know it's wrong, I know it's like wrong on every level, but I love this. I love, a portmanteau word where 2 things come together. It's my anniversary. It's the anniversary of the day I was diagnosed with HIV, and my life has changed immeasurably in the last 12 months, so it is something I celebrate, genuinely. I've decided not to treat it as a bad thing, and interestingly, okay, let's call this the status report before I move on then. I'll just talk about it for a little bit. I've had a bit of an epiphany in terms of how I look at HIV. I know I've started calling it my lodger. And I had a bit of a shift in how I think about it and how I approach looking at it. Rather than thinking of it as some malevolent, evil, vicious thing, I realised, and this is true, not just how I look at it, it's true, it doesn't want to kill me. It will, if left unchecked, if I don't take my medicine every day, but it will kill me ultimately. I mean, it won't, but it would kill me if it got the chance, but it doesn't want to. And I thought, well, hang on, how does that work? It doesn't want to because it doesn't actually mean me any harm at all. But it's going to kill you. It's not. What I mean by that is, it doesn't consciously even know I exist. It doesn't have a conscience or a consciousness. It's just doing what it can to survive the best way it knows how. And aren't we all? So suddenly I was thinking, right, okay, it's just fighting for its life. It's just doing its own thing. It doesn't know that by doing that it's causing me harm. It doesn't even know I exist. So therefore it's not evil and it's not malevolent. It's just a thing. It just is. And that has really sort of helped me process what's going on and stop thinking as some sort of like nasty parasite. It's like wants to hurt me. It doesn't at all. It doesn't wish me any harm whatsoever. In fact, if it does harm me, it dies. So anyway, so that was all part and parcel of the whole anniversary thing and how my life has changed and for the better, oddly. Things I never thought I'd say. But look at this. I'll bring it closer, you can see what that is. That is a whole load, my friend, of AIDS red ribbons. The whole bag. Isn't that just lovely? I will knit with this on the tube and out and about in public with so much pride. It's lovely, it's gorgeous. So it's good. The screen's going too dark, it's fine, there's not much light here, so this is getting too, look at that, you can hardly see me. But isn't that wonderful? Not only that, look at my zip pull. The 6 colours of the pride rainbow flag. Rainbows and rainbows and rainbows everywhere in this house. It's wonderful. Not only that, let's have a look inside. Wow! Splashes of rainbow coloured joy. Just fabulous. And it's huge as well. It's huge. It feels really sturdy. It's really heavily interfaced. And it's got a wrist strap. And Lorena is wonderful because the wrist strap is at the side where the zip closes. So if I'm knitting on the go, then I can close it up and the yarn will come out. Things are not going to fall out. It's wonderful. So this scarf project that I'm planning to do with the Marlisle double knitting, is going right in there as soon as the yarn arrives, and I shall be happy and proud to be a knitter with HIV out and about in public. I cannot wait. Yes. Along with that, oh, here it is. She also made me a little like a sock project bag. Isn't that lovely? The 6 colours of the Pride Rainbow flag. As Ben pointed out, all kind of splashy watercolour effect, rather like a certain tattoo in rainbow coloured watercolour. And to tie it all together, this one is lined with the HIV ribbon bag, and she's made it so that it is fully reversible because she's clever like that, and she's made all the seams. I don't know how you do that. She's made all the seams on the inside reversible. This is the way I love it, and I love the fact that that's a sort of a little subtle nod towards, but this is just lovely, and I'm going to get so much joy out of using these bags. Then my mother-in-law, the wonderful Noelle, Ben's mother, on a few days ago, I hadn't seen them over my birthday at all until last week, and she's a big fan of elephants. She made me 2 little bags. It's really, really sweet of her, because I don't know that she did this sort of stuff. I know she knits and she does all sorts of other stuff, but lovely, lovely drawstring bag with hundreds and hundreds of little elephants on it, forwards and backwards. Isn't it just lovely? It's really sweet. It's all lined as well, lined with white materials. It's all, it's really special. I feel really special. A hand-knitted gift from someone who loves you. What more? Handmade gift from someone who loves you. What could be more special than that? And with it, a tiny little beanie one. I don't know what I'll put in there. Maybe if I have something in the bigger bag and I need some notions, I'll sort of decant from my usual notions bag and put them in there. I feel very lucky. I really do. There's very special people in my life. And it's nice to know that they think I'm a bit special too. Thank you, everybody. That's all of you as well for watching. You're all special. So what's next? I've got a finished object. Finally. I've not had any time finishing recently. It's been really hard. I sort of lost the mojo and it's been really, really difficult, and it's been really stressful, and I haven't had any time for knitting, and when I have, the last thing I wanted to do is think about knitting when I've been doing the book all day. But I have finally finished the Slideways scarf, and here it is, everybody. Slideways. You've seen this in all its various stages, but it's finally finished, and it's absolutely gorgeous. I love it. It's made from Erica Knight's British Blue yarn, which is 100% BFL. It's a DK weight yarn. Got loads left, literally loads left, so there's going to be a hat designed that mirrors this pattern. And what's lovely about this, I've talked about it before, but in case you haven't seen those episodes, I'll show you a bit detail for it. So you can see that it's not just any ordinary piece of double knitting which is just coloured pixels on a screen, on a canvas of a scarf. What you've got going on with this one is it's not knitted on the bias, the ends aren't at all, but with a decrease on one side and an increase on the other, what it does is it pushes lines of the stitches over diagonally. So these columns are going up and down there like that, but then these stitches go hoofing off in a completely different angle. And with care over where you place your increases and decreases, you can get this lovely slaloming effect here. So that's why this scarf's called slideways, because things slide sideways, some slideways. And then of course on the other side, being double knitting, it's the other colours and going the other way. What's amazing about this scarf is actually how easy it is. Because it's all columns of stitches, apart from the first set of rows here, we've got this horizontal bar there. Once you get past that, and until you get to the same feature at the other end, every single stitch is knitted into a stitch which is the same colour as the yarn you're currently using. You don't put a grey stitch on top of a yellow stitch ever, apart from those two ends. You're working a yellow stitch into a yellow stitch, or you're working a grey stitch into a grey stitch. So you don't have to worry about what colour you're using. Don't worry about that at all. It takes care of it for you. And every row on one side, so the odd numbered rows, the maximum amount of work you have to do is one increase and one decrease. That's it. And then on the return row on the other side, you just do standard double knitting all the way across. This is a brainless piece of double knitting, and it looks so much more complex because of what it's doing. But actually, it's one of the easiest double knitting patterns I've ever put together, and it was so much fun to do. So Ben and I have just been outside before it started raining to take some photographs of it, and I'm hoping to get this pattern written up and released this week. That's my plan. So try and help myself to that, because I need to eat. So if you're interested in this, it's called Slideways, and it'll be available on my Ravelry store very, very soon. I'm really, really happy with it. So happy. This is, gosh, it's so lovely and lofty. Now, interestingly, the British Blue is fantastic to work with, but I wasn't very careful with this. It was the bag that was too small for it, and I was throwing it about all over the place. And it's a very, very bloomy, halo-y type of yarn. And this had pilled and bloomed quite a lot. By the time I even got it off the needles, it was only a couple of days ago, by the time I got it off the needles, some of it was already looking quite tatty. So, knowing I needed to photograph it, and that's not in any way a bad reflection on the yarn, it's beautiful to work with and feels sumptuous and gorgeous. I love it. I would happily use it again. But I just wanted to make sure I could care for it. So I ordered online this thing. It's going to make a horrible noise right now. It's a little zzz for defuzzing your knitted goods, and I spent 10 minutes before we went out to take those photographs, giving both sides and down the edges a good once over with this, and that's what came off. That is from one defuzzing of that scarf. Tiny moment. So this little thing here is about £8, I think, off Amazon. I don't know what it's called. Doesn't seem to have a brand name on it, but it looks like that. It did that from one going off the scarf. It's amazing, and it sort of collects in this area here. Brilliant. So I'm going to use that on lots of different things. Now, obviously, I don't want to keep going over it all the time to damage the integrity of the piece, but it's nice to know that if you've got a yarn which is bloomy and it is sort of disturbing the clarity of the pattern that you've put together on it, then you can use something like that. It's really made a difference. This looks neat and pristine and lovely now, and I'm very, very happy. And finally, and I am going to then wrap this up, the last thing I want to talk about is what I've got currently on the needles. So I'm going to be teaching all over the world later on this year. I'm doing 7 cities in New Zealand. I fly out on the 19th of August and I'm away until the 26th of September, so 6 weeks. 7 cities in New Zealand. So if you are anywhere in New Zealand near any of the following: Auckland, Napier, Wellington, Christchurch, Queenstown and Arrowtown, Dunedin and New Plymouth. If you're near any of those places, then check your local yarn shops, because there's a good chance I may be coming near you if you're in one of those cities. So I know there's still some places left on some of my classes, particularly in Auckland. I'm going to be with Helene from Hayku I'm going to be doing some classes with her on the it's the 8th and 9th of September, I think. Early part of September. Then I'm going to be doing. I'm going to do some more information about this. I just don't have it to hand at the moment. But look up Diversknitty and the classes there. And I know there's still some places with her. Then I'm flying to Melbourne. I'm doing some classes there on the 12th to the 14th, and then 12th and 13th, I think. And then I'm flying to Sydney. And in Sydney, I'll be there from like 16th, 17th, and I'm going to be doing some classes there with Skane Sisters. And then I'm flying over to San Francisco for Vogue Knitting Live. My year gets complicated. I spend a week in San Francisco and I come home for 3 weeks, then I fly back out to New York and go upstate for Rhinebeck, and there for a week, and then I come home for about 2 weeks and I fly back out to the States to go to Minnesota and Minneapolis for Vogue Knitting Live over there. Really excited about that. It's part of the country I've never seen before. And then I'm home for Christmas, and then I'm going back. I'm going back out to Vogue Knitting Live, New York City. Very excited. If customs will let me in. I'm not earning any money while I'm there because I can't. I'm not legal to. So I'm not getting paid for any of these gigs. So I am there purely on a guest basis, and I'm purely there just because I want to be there, really. I'm not earning any money from it, so there's no reason for me to get stopped. But I know that Border Control, they're going to be like, why are you coming back out of the country? So I'm in a knitting convention. It's kind of it. But one of the things I'm going to be starting to teach is a new class for Vogue knitting, and it's called double knitted lace. So taking on board all the shaping techniques that we were talking about in the other class, increases and decreases are the foundations of what lace knitting is. So I've been putting together this pattern, and it is fast becoming one of my favourite things I've ever knitted. Ever designed and ever knitted. I love it so much. This is kind of my happy place now. When I get the chance to sit down, I can really immerse myself in this. It's a scarf. It's an unusual scarf. It starts at a point and it sort of gets to its widest point, and then just actually the sides slightly undulate as they go like that up, and then it'll taper to a point at the top again. But it looks like this. So this is the story so far. So here we are. As you can see, it's all based on holes, and it's really hard to see against that. There you go. Look at the delicate textures there. Look at what that actually is. It's traditional leaf patterns, lacy leaf patterns, as you've never seen them before, with colour. The thing with double knitting is, of course, you've got colour. You've got two options of any stitch can be this colour or that colour. But normally with lace, you get the texture, which is wonderful, and the patterning on from the stitches themselves. But here you can paint on your stitches. Look at the leaves with actual veins in them. And then, of course, being double knitting, turn it over, and all the colours are reversed, and it's very different. This. I hate saying this kind of millennial speak, but I can't even. I love it, and can you see? So it starts down here at a point there, and all of the veins will branch off, and 3 of them become the leaf patterns that will just continue running up the length of the scarf, getting longer and longer until it doesn't need to be anymore. Now the interesting thing about this is made with Wollmeiser yarn. Wollmeiser, it's the pure, so it's not the sock one with the nylon in it, but it's very fine, very thin indeed. Because of what lace is, because lace is all about decreases, and the decrease stacks up stitches on top of each other, cushioning each other, making them really squidgy. Then it's double knitting. Everything about this is bouncy, it's squishy. I will block it a bit to open it up a little bit. I don't want to lose that. I also think it hangs really kind of nicely on its own. It just sort of does its own thing. It's so beautiful. And the joy of it is, I have to say, because it's a very logical pattern, you can see how just like one thing follows on from the other. I don't have to read the chart anymore. I haven't done right from the beginning, really. Once I got into like halfway up the first pair of leaves there, after that one, it was so logical and so intuitive that it just makes sense. You just follow on from what's underneath your needles. It's just so lovely. There we go, show off in its best light. How about that? Just gorgeous. Sorry, I forgot it's podcasting and I was just gazing at it. Now, I know that sounds really arrogant. I don't mean that at all. It's just like, I'm enjoying it so much. I know it could come across like, oh God, he totally loves himself. No, I love this. I feel it sort of has a life on its own outside, being something that I put together. Double knitted lace, I think, is where it's at, certainly where it's going, and I want to do more and more and more of it. Take any lace shawl, paint some colour on it, double knit it. It's possible. None of the stitches here, nothing in here is anything that you wouldn't see on a standard, ordinary lace chart. That's it, really. That's all I've got for you. I did spend a time on my way up to Leeds yesterday sort of charting out this. That's swatching that, sorry, which is going to be the basis of the scarf I'm going to be doing. It's going to be brown and orange, gorgeous. And that's what I've got for you. So it's an hour and a half in, which is about perfect time to stop. I know I haven't done all the usual stuff, as community stuff. I'll get back to that in due course. I'll be a little bit, hopefully a bit more available to people on social media, and I'll be around. But check out Diversknitty as a hashtag to see what a beautiful place this world is. And I will see you, hopefully not too very, not before too much, before not too. It was going so well, and now it's all gone to poo. So now this podcast definitely is a finished object. Just remember, life is a work in progress. Just take it one stitch at a time. Until next time, bye-bye.